Do you want to know how to get bad kids to listen? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, and education, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about getting the kids to listen. No child is truly bad. They're just lacking skills. In this video, we're going to talk about what gets us in that mindset of thinking that they're a bad child, how to get out of that, and then what skill development that they need so that they will listen to us. There really are no bad kids, just untaught ones. There are bad choices and decisions that they might make. They might even be a little oppositional defiant or rebellious and want to push against you. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are bad, that they are rotten in some way. If we start thinking that way, our ability to reach them and teach them and touch their hearts changes. This whole channel is called the Teaching Self-Government channel. When a person learns self-government, they have a change of heart. That means they decide that they want to change their own disposition, their own behavior, and that they're choosing it. So just like you can choose to have good behavior, to connect with people in good, healthy ways, you can also choose the opposite. We might be having a situation where there is a child who's choosing the opposite. Now, as I'm talking to you about this, I have a lot of experience working with youth who people might call bad kids. So I raised my children all the way to adulthood. They were all strong-willed, but also I took in treatment children. They were foster children. They were teens, all ages 12 to 18, and they were the really troubled cases. It was level 3 treatment care. If they didn't succeed in my home, they would be locked up or institutionalized. And guess what? We helped them. That's why I'm even here today talking, because the BBC made a movie of my family. People asked me to write books. People were amazed that troubled youth could come to my home, ones that you might call the bad kids, and that they would change. In fact, in 2009, the BBC made a documentary of our family called The World's Strictest Parents. On this channel, you can see reaction videos to that, and on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com, in the blog tab, you can see a video blog. You can see that entire episode of two 17-year-olds, what you might call bad kids, although they weren't bad. They just hadn't learned what they needed to succeed. They hadn't had the proper training and nurturing. They came to my home for 8 days. After 2 days of going out of control and having it not work, they totally changed. And guess what? They listened to me. They knew that I cared about them. So often, the children stop listening to us because they actually start feeling like we don't really care. And though we don't care to understand them. Now there are some, like I said, rebel tendency children, and I do have a whole video on this channel about the 4 tendencies. I have another video about rebel tendency. If you feel like you're dealing with that, be sure to check those things out. Let's talk about the basics of what we can do to reframe our mind about them so that we can better reach them and, have better calmness, and then some of the skills that we can teach them and that we can use so that they'll listen to us. So reframing our mind, hopefully I've helped a little bit, talking just about choices and that sort of thing. But when they are in our face or they are ignoring us, putting up the hand, they won't listen, or they're just pretending that we're, just not even there, okay, because they're not going to pay attention, then we need to say to ourselves, what do they need me to understand? What would a person need to be feeling or experiencing to behave that way right now? Try to put yourself in their shoes so that you can come to them with a place of understanding. That doesn't mean you're not going to correct their behavior. You absolutely will correct the behavior. But if you can put yourself in that frame of mind when you're doing the correction, and you can get yourself to a place of calmness, it will make a big difference. So your calmness is key. There's actually a link below this video to a Calm Parenting Toolkit. I highly recommend, looking into that so that you can improve your calmness this more. You need to be able to stop yourself from overreacting and from taking things personally. Otherwise, you won't be able to reach the heart or the ears of your child. So let's talk about some of the structural things that you can do in order to help your child choose to listen to you more, even if they seem to be having habits of disobedience or even act like they don't care. One of the first things that you can do is establish ahead of time exactly how you will do the parenting. That's one of the things that many parents forget to do. In fact, if you do see that BBC show, you'll see James and Hannah, both 17-year-olds, sitting at our kitchen counter, and me and my husband explaining to them what the skills were of self-government, how we would correct them, every single time. We taught them ahead of time, before we ever even needed to use those skills, what they would need to be successful. Then we consistently followed through with the teaching and the corrections that were necessary. After just a couple of days of rebelling, and when I say rebelling, I mean they ran away 5 times in 2 days, but where I live, there was nowhere to go and nothing that they could do, so they kept coming back because they were hot, hungry, and tired. So they would come back, and then we would just pick up where we left off. We maintained our consistency. We trusted they could learn these skills. It could happen, even if they thought they didn't want to or couldn't do it. I wonder if the camera crew thought it was going to be actually possible for me to teach the children these skills. But after 2 days, they just followed right in with the family. They enjoyed the time there, even though they'd had years of experience rebelling against any type of structure. They actually wanted the structure. And most of your kids, your youth, your children, even if they are bad kids, actually want to know their stopping point. They want to know somebody cares enough to help them stop. They want the structure, even if they sometimes push against it because they have a habit of pushing against it. They want that structure. We need to provide that for them. So that means that we need to do those consistent corrections for them. Corrections do not have to feel negative, punitive, or attacking. A good correction actually would leave the parent and the child feeling closer to each other during and after the correction than they even were before. So make sure that you take the time to learn some really good corrections. A great correction has 7 steps. You describe the situation, you describe a rationale for why that wasn't a good choice, then you describe what they should have done, you give them the opportunity to earn a negative consequence, and you want to keep those consistent every time so that it doesn't seem like you're manipulating. I talk more about that in my TSG parenting course. You can find information there. But then also, you praise them for accepting their consequence, you practice things the right way, and you praise them for all of those practices as well. You should be praising your children like 4 or 5 times during one corrective teaching interaction. This actually changes the whole dynamic of a correction. So often we get ourselves trapped when working with children who have more extreme behaviors. It is not helpful for you to be in the habit of trapping yourself. There's actually an entire video, it's a full-length class that I have on this channel about how we put ourselves into expectation traps and how to do the cycle for success instead of the expectation trap. I think it could really help you as you're working through some of these difficult behaviors. That class is called the Expectation Trap versus the Cycle for Success. So click on the link to that video next. I'll see you there.